Today on our 2017 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, we're going to take a look at and also show you how to install the Roadmaster high-power diode kit with the 7-wire to 6-wire straight cord. Part number is RM-152-98146-7. Now the reason to choose this style of a kit over a coiled wiring kit would be because your tow bar either has a slot where your wiring will slide through to keep it really nice and neat, or you prefer a nice neat look where you could zip tie everything together and keep it clean. The diodes are also an important part here of protecting both the vehicle and your motorhome from any kind of backfeed between each other. Now to begin our installation, we're going to get our wiring ran kind of out here on the front of the vehicle so we can install our plug. We just stretch our 4-pole wire out underneath the vehicle. We'll bring this up from behind. Now this base plate kit recommended that we notch out a hole here to help with our wiring, which is a great idea. If your base plate doesn't, you might want to think about it. And if that's not an option for you, you can also bring it through the lip that's between your air dam here and the bottom of the bumper structure, right in that gap. Now we'll start at the end of our 4-pole, and we want to separate our wires. And we'll be able to attach our plug. That's the good thing about the RM152 kit is that you can choose whatever type of plug that you want to go here on the front of the vehicle and whatever type you want on the back of the vehicle with the other flexo coil or straight cord kits, which will help this to work on your application without the need for adapters. Now usually at the end of these there's a little bit of, see, just kind of some bends and cuts there. We're just going to get rid of those. We'll start with nice clean wire and we'll get the 4 of those stripped back. We'll just give each of those a good twist to keep all those strands together. Now we're going to place on our boot for our plug. Most plugs designed for the front of the vehicles will have a boot on them, so put that on before you get it wired up. Just tuck that up. And here's the 6-pole round that we'll be adding to the front. And the nice thing about having the additional ports is that you can add a brake signal light to come from the front, or you can add an auxiliary charge wire if you want. You're not limited to just 4 functions. Now starting at the top in the middle, we've got our TM, or our trailer marker lights. That'll be the brown wire. The GD, just to the left of that, looking at the back, is for the ground. If we go to the left of that, we've got left turn signal. Then we're going to have right turn signal. This acts as a stop signal if you need it from your braking system. And this acts as the auxiliary. We're only going to be using those 4. So we loosen up the set screw. It's going to allow enough room for our wire to go in. Just hold it in place and then tighten that down. Next one over, going counterclockwise, is the ground, so that'll be our white wire. We got LT, it's left turn, which is the yellow wire. Alright, now I'm going to pull a little bit of this out. It's going to allow us to slide our boot down and on. You'll see about where that's at. It's a little bit in front of that slit, so I'm going to tape up from about here back, just so the part that's visible here in the front of the vehicle will be more hidden. And again, this is just more for appearance sake, just to keep everything looking nice. And we can slide our boot down and over. We always like to fill these up with silicone too, just to prevent any moisture from getting in there and causing corrosion. But test it out first, make sure everything's working. Once you've done that, then you can take care of filling it in and attaching it. Now with everything working properly, just some black silicone sealant. We're really going to get a lot of it in there. Now we'll use the attachment hardware that was provided with the base plate, and we'll secure our plug. Now if this attachment point's not provided with your base plate, that's fine. A good solution would be to use a short bracket, part number 18140. You can attach that right here. It's going to stick out. And then you can use the bracket provided with the straight wiring kit and its attachment hardware. Now I'm going to run the other end of my wire up and over the sway bar there. We're going to get it supported above this, kind of following along with this wire loom. We'll zip tie right off to that, and that should keep us up in a safe area. Just pull our slack through there and start getting our zip ties in place. Now when running our wire to the rear of the vehicle, we just really need to watch out for moving parts. We need to watch out for sharp edges or anything else that might damage our wiring. You can do it whatever fashion or direction you want, just avoid those items. You can see if we follow over the top of our frame here, we've got our brake lines there. That's going to give us a good anchor point. And once we leave where those brake lines are, we can just kind of stay on top of the frame. We can pick up another anchor point here along the floorboard of the Jeep. And right up here, we're going to be able to pick up our brake lines again. We're further down the exhaust, so we shouldn't have to worry about too much heat here. We're going to ground our wire out right here on this cross member. That's going to give us some extra white wire that we can use to make our jumper wire in the back, which we'll show you in a few minutes. It's just basically going to be pulling the white wire off of the other three. Now we'll continue back with those brake lines with our 3 remaining wires. Now we'll go over this next cross member. This is going to be the one just in front of the axle. And here we can separate our green wire from the yellow and brown. Now our green wire, we're going to start following our filler neck over. This needs to go in behind our passenger side taillights, so that'll give us good support and keep it up and out of the way. Now from our last anchor point with our green wire, we're going to come up and there's a wire loom just in front of this cross member. We can attach to that, and then we'll head right over to that back passenger side corner. Here for our ground wire, just bring down the amount we need. I'm going to trim that off, get it stripped back. And we can add on our provided ring terminal. Get that crimped down. And then you'll have your provided self-tapping screw. You'll need a 5/16 inch bit driver for it. We just get a hole drilled right there to attach it to. Once we have our hole started, we're going to add our ring terminal and secure it down. And that should be secure enough so you can't wiggle your ring terminal. Now we're going to follow along with that fuel filler neck and the wire looms that run up over the rear cross member and spring perch there. Once we get back here, we can use our wire loom to create an anchor point. And we'll tuck our wire just right up above that foam pad. It's a pretty open area in there, so you should be able to find it without any problem at all. Now to access that area, we're going to remove the tail light here. It'll be the 2 Phillips screws here on the inside. And we'll just kind of pull towards the inside. Those are going to come out. At this point, we're going to test which of the wires running through our plugs are for our running lights and which ones are going to be for our blinker or for our turn signal. Okay, so we're going to trim you see kind of like the electrical tape off the wires here, just to allow us to separate them, figure out which one's which. It's very important that you don't cut any of the wiring itself. We want to stay away from that. Now with the running lights on in our Jeep, we need to test the wires here on our plug to determine which of those is giving us the signal. And off, and back on. Alright, so it looks like the white with the orange is giving us our running light signal. Now with the left blinker on, looks like we're getting that signal from our green and white wire. Now we'll just head over to the passenger side and check it there, see what we've got. Back on and off. Looks like the purple and white on this side is going to be our running lights. Now we'll check our right side turn signal. Alright, so we got yellow and white right side turn signal, purple and white right side running lights. Let's see, we pulled our wire loom back a little bit. That's going to give us some room to work. And then here's our wiring that we pushed up through that cubby, or around that foam pad. Now I like to be sure I get all of that pulled up, and then I want to anchor this wire out. So I'm going to bring it up top here. That way I'll know that I'm never going to have any of this yellow and brown wire hanging out below my vehicle. Alright, now we'll leave enough yellow and brown wire in there so we can have a little room for play. Then we're going to cut it off. Let's get those two separated off. We also need to splice our orange and white wire. And we're going to splice our green and white wire. Now all those we just cut, we're going to get stripped back. Now on our yellow wire, we're going to add a blue female spade connector. And we'll also be adding one of those to all 4 of our factory wiring ends. So we'll finish up with our orange and white wire. Now the only different wire we're going to have is going to be our brown wire here. We need to splice this, or we need to have a wire connected that we can also run over to the passenger side. I think we've got enough brown wire left over, so let's just separate that. We'll show you how to make a quick splice here. So we'll strip one end of that back. And this is where our yellow female spade connector comes in. We take both of our wires. I'm going to twist them to where we create kind of one solid wire. And slide that up in place, and we'll get it crimped down just like we did the other 5. Now the end of this brown wire, we're going to drop right back down through the slot we brought our yellow and brown wire up the first time. And we'll pull out the slack on that, and we can zip tie it off in that same spot. Now our diodes are designed to allow us to have an input. This is our driver's side tail light, so that's going to go to the N. Got the tail light coming from our motorhome to the N, so we can have 2 inputs that are going to go to a single output, just like that. Now, not only does it allow us a 2-to-1, but this diode prevents backfeed. So the vehicle side can never send power through the wiring up to the motorhome, and the motorhome side can never send power back up to the wire to the Jeep. It keeps them isolated and protected from one another. We'll connect the green and white wire. That's going to be for our tail light and our turn signal. Connect our yellow wire coming from our motorhome. That gives us the same signals, just from different spot. Then we'll slide that on. And now at this point, you can get as neat and as tidy as you want. You can leave them just like this if you'd want, but definitely at least wrap it up a little bit to keep it more secure. There's also some double stick tape there if you'd like to secure that off to any items. We don't have a lot of extra wiggle room, so we're just going to let them hang there and wrap them with some tape. Now, to offer some additional protection, it's a good idea to take some black silicone sealant, or any silicone sealant for that matter, doesn't matter the color. You kind of go on the end of each of those. Now the brown wire we brought back down, we're going to bring over our frame rail, and we're going to be running this over, and it's going to go up behind the passenger side taillight. Right across the top of the bumper here, there are a couple metal brackets. They act as good anchor points. All right, now we'll join these 2 up. We're going to run them right up through the plastic panel on the bottom. We can just drill a small hole in it, just large enough for our wires. Now before drilling, you want to verify there's nothing behind this that you might cause damage to. And then we'll just create a small hole. We'll just run our 2 wires up through there, and we can pull them up just like we did on the driver's side. Just some expansion foam that they put in there. Just pull up, make sure we don't have any slack hanging out below the vehicle. You'll see right back here on the body metal, there's going to be a kind of an oblong hole. We're going to use that to create our anchor point here. We'll trim back our wire loom here. Now we're going to do this in the same way that we did the driver's side. Now to the end of all 6 wires that we've got here, we want to add on one of our blue female spade connectors. Now with female spade connectors on all of our connections, connect one of our diodes here to the taillight circuit, which is the purple and white. Of course, we want the purple and white on the other side here as well. And then the brown wires are running light signal, so let's plug that in. And we can add in our other diode for our turn signal and for our brake signal. It's going to be the white wire with the yellow stripe and the green wire. Now, just like we did on the other side, we'll get these organized. We're going to tape them up a little bit and then put some silicone sealant on there. I'll use just a little bit of silicone here around that hole we created. Now we'll make our connections back on our tail light here. Remember, this side did have that extra plug. That's going to be positioned right down here. All right, we'll slide that in. Now to reseat the tail light, we need to push it in all the way and then just kind of slide it to the outside. That'll have our holes lined up. We'll place in our screws and secure it down. So we've got this one secure. We'll do the same thing over on our passenger side. Now we'll start disassembling our plugs so we can connect our wiring. Use a Phillips screwdriver to take out that little set screw. Now we're going to bring our wiring through our large hole. Now that end, it's just going to pull out just like that. That'll be our connectors. Need to bring our wiring through. You can see that little gate there. That's meant to pinch down and grab our wiring when everything's done. So you want to slide it up and over that. We'll start with the tail light. That was the one closer to the top. That's going to be our brown wire. Just going to slide that in, and then we want to run that set screw down so it gets a good hold on our wire, but we don't necessarily need to smash it or do any damage to the wire. Next one over from there is going to be the ground, so that's the white wire. Next, we're going to have our left turn signal. That's the yellow wire. Once you start getting them all in there, they get a little hard to manage, but you just want to kind of bend them to where they go in position. Now, before we get it covered up, let's take care of the one in the middle here. This is going to be our black wire, or our auxiliary. All right, then the next one from our yellow will be the green for our right turn. And the last one's going to be our blue wire there. Now we're just going to slide that right back in and line up our holes. And we just want to run that back in snug. Now with a slightly larger Phillips, we're going to tighten up that set screw. And you'll see that's going to bring we'll gator our keeper down, put a little bit of pressure on that wire, and that'll prevent, when we pull this out, from pulling anything internally apart. Once we've got that secure, we'll be ready to plug it into the front of the vehicle, plug it into our motorhome, and with all of our other connections made, we can hit the road. All right, now we can run through all of our signals to make sure everything's working properly. We'll start with our running lights. Now our left blinker, our right blinker, and our brakes. Now one additional thing we'll check will be turning on our blinker, and that should continue to flash even when we hit the brakes on our coach. That's because we installed the Roadmaster brake light relay kit. To stay state compliant, you will need one of those. And that's going to complete our installation of the Roadmaster high-power diode kit with the 7-wire to 6-wire straight cord. Part number is RM-152-98146-7.